Okay, everybody, I'm going to start. It's exactly 4 o'clock in California and later in other places that you are. I, um, I'm so happy to see these people coming on. Apparently, I clicked some funny button when I set this up, and now every single person that has to comes in, I have to say admit, which is really a hassle. So I have to keep looking over at my chat screen, which I apologize for. So I'd been thinking about doing this for a few days, and today I just got so fed up with the lies that are um, being perpetrated and being bought by people all around the world. And somebody, if you're flushing the toilet or something, could you please mute yourself? Or I'll do it for you. Thank you. Um, I just got so fed up with the lies and the bullshit. You know, most of the time I'm just hanging out in this beautiful house with a view of the mountains and the bay and everything, and not really suffering very much, except that I'd like to be home with my husband who's in Costa Rica. But other than that, I'm doing great. Uh, and then I go outside and I see all these people wandering around with masks and staying away from me and telling me to move back if I have this sort of chronic allergic cough, which of course freaks people out big time. It's quite funny. Um, and so then it just hits me. Oh, these people think this is real. So I'm going to do, first of all the times we have been in charge of authoritarian governments and perpetrated lies and control relative to health or anything else, and any time, space, dimensions, and realities, and all the income and royalties we're still waiting from that activity. Can we please destroy and uncreate all that? Rescind, revoke, recant, renounce, denounce, destroy, and uncreate all that. Right, wrong, good and bad, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. You know, you can't judge anything without having been there and done that. And everything I say is just an observation, not a judgment, of course, but, you know, just in case it's a judgment, we'll just undo it. Oh, got to admit people. Admit all, that's it. Yay, okay. So I teach the 3-day body class around the world, and I love the body processes. And I'm going to get into some definite science like they taught me in school, and explaining some concepts to people that I really want you to know. And it's based on what we know in Access, which is that if you buy a lie about something, you won't ever have clarity on that subject. And there's so many lies around about illness and the immune system and disease and all of that, that if you've got to be really careful um, to not buy into them. And if you buy a lie, then you won't ever have clarity for you. So it's really in the spirit of letting you know what's really going on and what's really true that I share this information. Now, but before I get into the science part of it, I want to say that I know every single one of you that has done a body process class knows that Access can create incredible miracles that are not explainable by science. And I love that about Access. I love the magic. I had a friend who, oh, this was probably 15, 16 years ago, had ovarian cancer, and she had to have surgery for it. But she had a lot of Access body processes. And so when they did surgery, they took out the tumor and they found 35 other tumors throughout her body, which, first of all, ovarian cancer has a survival rate after 5 years of less than 1%, number one. Number two, if somebody has 35 tumors throughout the body, it's kind of a slam dunk that they have metastasized cancer. There really isn't anything else explaining that in science. But they sent them to Stanford University, you know, respected medical school and all of that. And all Stanford could say was, oh, this is really weird. We've never seen anything like this before. And my friend is alive and well and walking around today, 15 or more years later. So totally nothing I say is to do anything but support and encourage and acknowledge the amazing miracles that are possible, that science doesn't think are possible with the Access body processes. So want to be clear about that off the top, just in case there's any doubt. Now, second, I want to start out by saying, first of all, we now have such a wonderful, informed president who's now giving medical advice. And his medical advice was that you should use chloroquine, which is quite an intense drug for coronavirus. Now, this is based on no medical indications whatsoever. Now, I personally have taken chloroquine. Chloroquine is an anti-malarial drug, and it has horrendous side effects. In fact, lots of people who live in malaria areas won't take it because the side effects of the drug are as bad, if not worse, than the malaria they've gotten. That's how toxic a drug it is. And I saw a headline on my phone, it just flitted by, that some man had actually taken Mr. Trump's advice and used chloroquine to treat malaria, and he had died because death is a side effect of chloroquine. So at first it amused me a little bit. It's like, well, why an anti-malarial drug for coronavirus? You know, why not an anti-diabetic drug or an anti-ADD drug? It's like, why did he pick that drug? But this morning I saw that Mr. Trump actually owns stock or part of a company which produces that drug. Isn't it interesting that he should choose that drug to recommend to people? So if you're listening to this, and I'm sure you're not, but I mean, I hope you're listening, but if you're stupid enough to believe Mr. Trump about anything concerning medical advice or prescriptions of a drug, especially a drug that has potentially fatal side effects, then you're probably not going to understand anything else I say after this because you're just too stupid. So if that's you, that's okay. We know stupid people don't know they're stupid. And I'm just letting people in. Cool. So the first thing is not to believe that Mr. Trump knows anything about epidemics, virology, prescriptions, really anything about health, period. And believing him can be a really expensive mistake. When I was in Europe, when all these limitations were just like sort of piling on top of us like a truckload of cement, he came on the TV, and on Wednesday he said, "Oh, starting Friday, borders of the U.S. are going to be closed." And here I am, an American with an American passport, stuck in Europe. And I read online about some people who believed him and went out and bought tickets. And one person paid $20,000 for a coach ticket to fly back to the U.S. because she really believed Trump was going to close the borders. I, on the other hand, went, "Oh, he always changes his mind. He'll get over it. I'll wait and see." He had to back off and decide that he would allow people with American passports to actually enter the U.S. So that was just an illustration of why it's smart not to believe everything the president says. So, so the second thing I want to explain to people is about how antibodies in our immune systems work. So the way things are supposed to work is we have an immune system which is multi-layered. So for example, for a pathogen, something that causes disease, there's layers of how our body resists it. So there's the hairs of our nose which resist it. There's the acidity in our mouth that will resist it. So there's layers and layers of ways that our body resists something and keeps it from getting into the bloodstream where it can cause harm. And actually, before that, I want to explain something that they talk about in Microbiology 101, which is where they teach you about all of these you study every single quote germ or organism supposed to cause disease. And that's this thing called Koch's postulates. And Koch's postulates says two things. And these two things would have to be true if it were true that germs cause disease. One of the things that would have to be true is that every time you see the disease, you would have to see the pathogen, the thing causing it, present. And second is every time you saw the disease, you have to see the pathogen present. And every time the pathogen was present, you would have to see the disease. Well, we have both of those things not occurring in the case of the coronavirus. We have people walking around with absolutely no symptoms who have been exposed to the disease and are exposing others. And we also have people who show the symptoms without necessarily showing the organism. So yet everything in medicine, everything in vaccines is based on this, oh, this coronavirus is this horrible enemy, Isn't it interesting that they're using it as an enemy and analogies of war, because there's nothing that will unite people and allow them to be totally controlled like being at war and creating this widespread fear which is dominating them. So Koch's postulates, again, were if the organism is present, the disease must be present. We see that not happening in coronavirus. And if the disease is present, the organism must be present. That is also not happening in coronavirus. How do I know that? Because I read a study done of the original people who were, when it started in Wuhan in China. And the only test that was positive on everybody was a certain finding in their lungs that was only visible on a CAT scan. So there were people who had coronavirus that didn't test positive on the lab tests. So what's the thing? Yet medicine has based its entire treatment, its entire education of us, everything they've done on wiping out the pathogen, which just means another one's going to evolve and develop, and ignoring the other contributing factor to disease, which is the underlying health of the person, the environment, their level of nutrition, the level of sanitation that they're exposed to. Measles is not fatal to most American children, but measles is a very fatal disease to African children. Why? Because they live in overcrowded conditions with poor sanitation and poor nutrition. So what caused the death? Was it the measles, or was it the living conditions that the poor children were in? And I'm poor, I mean economically not well off, not, oh, those poor little darlings. So that's clear. So just ponder Koch's postulate. If the organism is present, they must have the disease, which we know is not the case. And if they have the disease, the organism might be present, which may or may not be the case. And so now our immune system has these layers that enable us to resist infections, basically stop these invading pathogens in their tracks. The acidity in the stomach, the lining of the hairs of our nose, all of these things. And it's only after all of those barriers are passed that the pathogen actually gets into our blood. That's one reason that vaccinations make no sense to me. We have this beautifully functioning immune system that's kept us alive, and we're going to bypass it by injecting the pathogen right into our bloodstream. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense to me. So there's many illogical things about vaccine. I don't really want to argue with anybody about it. I'm just giving you some things to think about. So the way the immune system works is when you're exposed to something, when your immune system is working normally, then it develops antibodies to that particular disease, which the next time you're exposed to it, allow you to fight it off. That's why people, even unvaccinated people, don't get chickenpox more than once. They don't get measles more than once. They get it, their immune system does its job, it develops the antibodies are there in their blood, as far as we know, for life. How long they actually last, I'm not going to get into that question. But that's how the immune system works. And I see widespread misunderstanding of this everywhere. For example, take the example of AIDS. If someone tests HIV positive, people say, oh, they have AIDS. HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, also known as AIDS. No, that doesn't mean they have AIDS, because you will always find people, what it means is they have been exposed to that virus, and their immune system has reacted correctly and developed antibodies to the virus. Now, I don't know what percentage of those people develop AIDS. Maybe it's 99%. I don't know. But HIV positive and AIDS are not the same thing. HIV just means they have the antibodies to the particular disease. Yes. Okay, somebody, could you mute yourself, who's making that noise? Thank you. So, okay, so are there any questions so far? I hope I'm not confusing you or being too technical. I just want you to know what's going on. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. So So our immune system is supposed to be working properly. I personally believe that I actually had the coronavirus when I was in Europe, but the symptoms were so mild. I just come from a 3-day Access Body class. The symptoms were so mild, and I wasn't freaked out about it that, I was really tired for 10 days, and that was the end of it. So now my system has antibodies to the coronavirus. And so I'm not afraid to go to the grocery store or any place else. And I kind of freak out these people with their masks and all of that. So um, with the coronavirus, the people who are dying, not only, but the majority of people who are dying are people who had pre-existing medical conditions. They had cardiovascular disease, they had diabetes, they had existing lung problems, they had cancer. Those are mainly the things. Of the people who passed away in Wuhan, this is the earliest statistics, the people who died, less than 1% of them did not have pre-existing conditions. So what does that tell us? That tells us that for the most part, the people who are dying of this are people who were actually already being kept alive by the same medical system that didn't succeed with coronavirus. Yeah, there was a 21-year-old soccer coach in Spain that died. But guess what? When he was tested coronavirus, they discovered that the guy actually had leukemia that had never been diagnosed. So what killed him? Was it the coronavirus, or was it the coronavirus that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak? So it's interesting because all the hoo-ha is about the coronavirus. Anyone that has the coronavirus in their system is presumed to die of that, rather than recognizing, oh, this person's underlying level of health was insufficient to fight off this disease, this pathogen, this disease that actually in most cases was relatively mild. More than 80% of people who get coronavirus recover completely. End of story. They've got the antibodies I'm talking about. There's nothing else to say. I mean, isn't it amazing that we've ground the economy of the entire world to a complete halt over something that kills people only with pre-existing conditions who are more likely to die anyway? Thank you very much. And is only, that's who it kills, and from which more than 80% of people recover. It's just so interesting to me. Right, and somebody said, oh, or did that 21-year-old create the corona due to leukemia? Right. There's actually an acupuncture theory which says that if you injure yourself, you may say, oh, I fell and I injured my knee. The acupuncturists look at it and say, oh, the energy in that meridian that you impacted was so out of balance that your body actually created that injury to bring the meridians back into balance. I'm not an acupuncturist. I can't say if that's true or not true, but it seems more consistent with how bodies work than a lot of the stuff that we're hearing from the powers that be. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk a little bit more, get myself in even hotter water, and just talk a little bit more about how illogical vaccines are. First of all, we have this wonderful, beautiful immune system that keeps us alive in a world full of germs for years, decades in most of our cases. And we want to bypass it by injecting things directly into our bloodstream. That makes no sense to me. The second thing that's so illogical to me about vaccines is how afraid the vaccinated people are of people who are not vaccinated. I wanted to take my cat to the vet to have my cat fixed, but the vet would not allow my unvaccinated cat in his clinic because it might endanger his vaccinated cats. I'm like, hello, if your vaccine is so great, then why is my vaccinated cat a danger? That's exactly what your wonderful vaccines are supposed to be protecting those animals from. And we experience the same thing on a human level. My son was invited not to come back to the dorms at the college in Massachusetts he was going to because he was not vaccinated. I fought my whole life not to vaccinate him. And then when he was 23 and he was becoming a paramedic, he believed he had to have all the vaccinations, so he went and had them all at once. What can I say? You know, it's his life, it's his body, it's his choice. And isn't it interesting, immediately after that, he got a root canal, meaning there was an infection in his tooth and the nerve had to be removed. But, when you're a parent, you can't choose for them. You have to just go interesting point of view to everything they choose because it's their life and their choice. So that's the other thing that's so illogical with vaccines. If the vaccines are so great, then then why are unvaccinated people or animals a threat to vaccinated people? It's almost like not only do you get a vaccine, but you get injected with this secret formula code that makes you okay. And if you haven't subscribed to the group think that injecting yourself with toxins, and there's lots of toxins in vaccine, mercury, live viruses, all kinds of things. The polio cases that are found today, because almost everyone's been inoculated, are caused by the vaccine itself, not by the wild form of polio. So vaccines actually can, in some cases, cause what they're attempting to prevent. So they're just so illogical to me, and I lost my train of thought. Do I have a source, a link or source to the Wuhan study? I got that Wuhan study. A friend of mine who's a medical doctor got the study in a link from someone at Stanford, and it was a medical doctor speaking to other medical doctors. The 1%, I found that on the internet, and but the study about the only thing that showed up positive was the ground glass appearance on their lungs in a CAT scan was in that medical study, and I believe I have a copy of it. And if it came to me and I have a link, I'll include it in the recording of this call, because it was a physician talking to other physicians. So it wasn't a politician, it wasn't somebody running for office. And did I mention that I just read this morning on the news that Trump actually owns stock in a company that produces the chloroquine? That just blew me away. Maybe that was what pushed me over the edge to do this call. So I hope this has been clear. I know it's kind of radical. It's interesting though, I mentioned that I think that I actually had the virus and it was so mild I didn't recognize it. And also in my reality, there's just no fear of it. So whenever I walk outside and I see these decent, good citizen, God-fearing people of Marin County seriously walking around wearing their masks, I'm in an Airbnb and the landlord comes in and he's got a mask over his mouth, and I don't bother to go into, you're not going to get it from me because I've had it, I'm over it. I had one Airbnb host that she wouldn't let me stay there. She was a former neighbor. She wouldn't let me stay there because her mother, who's 101 and doesn't live with her, lives like 10 miles away, somehow her mother might get it if I stayed in my neighbor's house. Oh, and that's the other thing. I will look up Bill Gates. The other thing is, what are people really afraid of? If 80% of people recover totally, and it's not 20% that are dying, it's less than that. I think it's 1 or 2%. I could be wrong about that. But even if it's 5%, what are people really afraid of? It's not the disease. The disease is mild. I'm over the age group that's supposed to be at risk for it. And it was nothing. I was tired for a week. Big deal. Oh, food tasted like cardboard. I called Gary about it. He said, don't eat. I got over it. So what are people really afraid of? They're really afraid of dying. And Trump has, and all the political leaders that are exerting these controls, and the controls in other countries are actually worse than in the US, because in the US, yesterday I got a call that the Photoshop where I left something was closed, but they were in the shop. And if I ran down there right then, I could pick up the thing that I'd left. And so I just got in the car and left. I didn't have to justify it to anybody. It wasn't like France where I could be stopped by police and I had to have some letter documenting why I was out. You're really free to go. It's really people's fear that's controlling them. And let's call a spade a spade. The fear is actually the fear of death. And the thing is, why are people so afraid of death? Gary's almost died 3 times, and he says it's no big deal. You just lie down, say I'm done, and don't get up. Every time, fortunately for us, he did that. He was told, get back to work. So thank you, guides of Gary Douglas, for that. But the thing, that maybe I could end with that. The thing that Gary channeled, let me find it on my computer. It's so beautiful about death, and it takes away the fear of it, and it's been a great comfort to me. Oops. Okay, where is my... Here we go. When do you celebrate death? Do you celebrate it? Do you honor it? And do you see it as the joy of transition? When the tree dies, does the forest mourn, or do the worms go, yay, mealtime? The forest doesn't mourn the passing of a tree. It celebrates the beginning of new life. Death is a transition from the limitation of this lifetime in the defined roles that one has created here and the defined reality, the destiny that they've written in stone for themselves. It's the opportunity for them to create something entirely new. Honor the dying and the passing as you honor the birth. There is no difference. One's the other side of the coin, but it's the same coin. It's the same place in which beauty exists. If you will honor the dying instead of mourning them, what you will create is the memory in the person who passes of their past life happening with ease in their next life, so that they can choose how to rewrite what they came to accomplish, and they won't have to struggle to know who they are. They won't have to fight to have awareness. They won't have to sift through the gray matter of their brain to know. Honoring death gives awareness to the being and improves the possibility of knowing in each lifetime. That is the gift you give to the spirit when you honor death. So, any questions, comments from anybody? You can unmute yourself to comment or make something in the chat. Has this been helpful? And yes, I will make the recording available. I don't know, Bill Gates. Hey.
Hey, it's helpful. Thank you so much for doing this.
Great. You're so welcome.
It was a little technical in the beginning, but I think when I re-listen a few times, I will get it.
Great.
And can I ask another question?
Sure.
Because in Access, a lot of, or maybe all, is about choice. The choice to leave a body, the choice to create something. And that's something that I miss in this, not necessarily in your conversation personally, but within the Corona conversation within Access. So maybe there's something there. Yeah, I've not heard anybody say that it's just a choice to create it and leave this planet.
Wow. Well, good. I'm glad I brought that part up, because there is quite a bit about the coronavirus in Access circles. And in Access, we certainly recognize that everything's choice. But, the average person out there, those people who are wearing masks, they don't realize that death is a choice. My husband ran the business for a man for about 10 years, and this man dropped dead 6 weeks before his 50th birthday. So his wife chartered a boat on San Francisco Bay and invited all of his friends and associates to honor his birthday. And David looked around, and every single person on the boat, except for one guy that had the reputation in town for being crazy, totally bought into, oh, this is tragic. And not a single person other than David and the crazy guy acknowledged that this was a choice this man had made.
Exactly, yeah.
So the awareness of death being a choice, and everything Trump's saying and everything that's out there is all about being a victim and wanting to avoid being a victim. But you're right, if you say, and maybe that's part of why what I think was my case, I haven't been tested, because who cares, was so mild. It was just like, I just wasn't buying into the fear of it. So it's okay. Maddie just took it, handled it. I hung out in my bed in Paris for about a week, and there we were. So great point. Thank you for bringing that up. And death is totally a choice. And interesting that that's not being mentioned in Access.
As well. And maybe it's for some, it's also a, I don't know the English word. an excuse to leave the planet or leave the
Right.
body, or
Right. Cancer is a socially acceptable form of suicide, you know? There's the trauma and the drama, and the relatives come from far away, and you have to suffer. And
yeah,
if you like drugs, you get to be on morphine, and it's tragic and sad, and they're fighting a great battle, and then they die. Okay.
yeah. Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's life.
It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy. But
it is, and also that also is a choice, of course. And
yes,
I'm so
totally.
happy for access tools and all the conversations around it and around the truth. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the spirit that I offer this in. It's like everything I say is science, and I get that access goes way beyond science and does all kinds of things that, quote, science can't explain. And I think those are wonderful, amazing magic. I love that. And if you're buying lies, which is what I was trying to counter, you can't ever know what the truth is. And so, in the spirit of that, let's look at what's actually true. Let's look at what's actually going on here, so we can have some freedom and awareness of our choices. That's really my um, target in creating this call. Other
Thanks.
comments or questions? Thank you for that, Leonie.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a friend who does Access who's staying here with me,
Uh-huh.
and we have been running bars and body processes every day for like 2.5 weeks. And I'm like, on what planet have you ever had the opportunity to have such a gift of being able to I mean, this is just like the best. And I wanted to mention one of the processes, that one, invocation of death. I think it was, and we've run that, and the invocation of blindness and invocation of deafness, because there's so many things that are true here that are not being said and not being presented in the bigger picture of the news and everything, that if people could unlock their deafness, their blindness, and fear of death.
Cool. Good point.
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw those processes out for anybody who wants to run them, or run them on yourself if you have to be alone or something. But they have been so far really generative for us here. Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing I did when I arrived from Europe, well, I got in late at night, so I spent the night at my son's house in San Francisco, and then I headed to Eureka and spent 10 days trading body processes with somebody, and it was fabulous. It was like, oh, I'm really suffering during this.
I'm like,
thing, you know?
How did you get so lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
so
excuse. Yeah.
To not be taken down by
have fun with that.
An opportunity for a lot of really amazing, uncommon events that were really creative. Yeah. Anyway, that's all.
Cool. Thanks for that, Moira. I'm glad there's other radical people out there doing body processes when we're not supposed to be touching people.
Oh my God. Well, I'm a massage therapist. I'm like, what do I do here? I don't have any income now for like almost 3 months.
Wow.
Like income. And I'm like, I got to do something. What do I do? So do you have any comments on
that? It sounds like you're doing great. You know, I mean, the income thing is like, I get it. And it's really, I mean, it makes, when I look at, I'm in Marin County, which is really home to me, although I don't live here anymore. And it's like these little businesses that I love. I don't even know which of them are going to reopen, all because some already sick people are dying. It's like, wow.
Well, okay. Can I just say something that's maybe a little controversial, but I don't mean to be crass in any way, shape, or form, but there's an opening of doors of when masses of elderly leave quickly, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to maybe buy properties or step into businesses, or some things that were just kind of left out there hanging, doing some estate sales or picking up jewelry and things that would be valuable and you could resell. And there you go. Maybe I got my own answer.
There you go.
Yeah. And especially in Marin County.
So Moira, somebody's asking me to put the names of the processes. So it's invocation of blindness, invocation of
blindness, death, and deafness. So that one of the other awarenesses that Kathleen and I have been talking a lot about is the fact that our proprioception, our normal proprioceptive abilities with our senses has changed, like because the energy like is a different viscosity, like it just is like I'm tripping on things, and it's just like the proprioception in space is different now because of the energy has changed. When people are stiller or whatever this is, what all this that changes happen. So holographic mutation is another one. We've been running that on our bars, and that seems to have been helping just keep us expanded to all the energetic changes that are going on. Yeah. Love those ones.
You can also run it with MTVSS, holographic mutation.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, on the body?
On the immune system points.
Oh, immune system points. Yeah, I was also thinking about putting out, you know how Access does this thing for Suicide Prevention Month? And that this is one of the things that has been projected to go way up in this time, is that the rate of suicide might go way up.
Right.
What could we all do to put that out, like reactivate that offer to reach out, have people reach out to us if they're struggling?
Go for it. Post it on Facebook. Facebook knows all. Everybody's living on their computers. They should get it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, and I wonder what that could generate for Access as a business too, if they saw that this massive people all over the world connected to Access Consciousness said, hey, we're willing to be here for you if you need someone to talk to for suicide prevent depression or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go for it. There's a call on that, I think. Is it tomorrow or was it today? On what next for facilitators? I wasn't on that call. So
okay.
You could suggest it.
I could check.
Or send it to Emily.
Emily?
Right to Emily at Access. Yeah, Emily at accessconsciousness.com.
Okay. I will.
We'll do something with it. Cool.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the States. I hear you're living out of the country. Yeah.
Yes. We're living in Belize, except our house in Belize is rented because David's overseeing the project at El Lugar. And
I saw that.
I saw that too, Casey.
Yeah. He's the one that's taking all these drones, which is really hilarious because I'm the photographer of the family, but I'm not there. We don't have a drone that'll fly all the way to Costa Rica. So he's taking the videos that you guys see. And there was just a call about what's possible for El Lugar this morning, and I'm sure the replays are posted on various Facebook sites, so you could check it out.
Yeah, fantastic.
To see my cute husband talk.
Aww.
It's a wonderful story of how things changed completely when he showed up.
Yes, it did, totally.
Yeah.
With no indication. It was just like, oh, I should go March 1st, And if he hadn't, March 13th or March 18th, something like that, Costa Rica closed. So the whole project would have been held up at least 2 months if he hadn't gone before they closed it. So how cool is that?
So Casey, could I make a comment?
Sure.
Just away from the Access for a minute. I wonder if people remember back in 2011 and 2012, there were masses of people leaving the planet. From the ascension, the ascension years. There are a lot of people who left, and there were all those comments. So it's like, now it's just another wave.
Right, but we think that it's because of coronavirus, and coronavirus is the enemy, and we're at war. So it's serious stuff. So
it shows up as a means for people to say, hey, I'm checking out. Okay, this is the way I'm going to go.
I know. But the difficulty, Rebecca, is that you're doing interesting point of view on it. And not many people are capable of going to interesting point of view about death. So therein lies the challenge. I have this conversation with my husband every morning. He wants to make the world logical. I'm like, give it up. It's not. People are just insane. So get used to it. So, Any other comments, questions? Thank you all for joining me. I've had fun. I hope you've had fun.
I have one process.
Okay.
This is Stacy. I do hands-on healing work,
Uh-huh.
and right now it's long distance because
Mhm.
people aren't coming to me. So my process I've been running is I turn on and run coronavirus antibodies, ultraviolet light, MTVSS, and all the rest.
Cool. Yay. And
Thanks.
how creative can we all be in the healing that we offer to people who are willing to receive it?
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
My housemate's been doing really well with that one. She's
Yay.
the only one that actually gets the hands-on, but everyone else gets it.
Right. Cool.
And I just want to say thank you for reading Gary's comment about death. I
Oh, you're
that's
welcome.
very, 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 it really struck me, and it's very valuable for other people to hear that, and maybe that would bring them some, some more space and allowance for death.
Yeah, it's definitely created a piece in my universe on the subject. So I love to share it. I shared it with a human, and she read it at her dad's funeral. So
Oh, awesome.
we're infiltrating the world with our
That's wonderful.
Our other points of view. Okay, guys, if there's no more comments, thank you all for joining me. And I will send, if you got this, I will post the link on Facebook, and I will also send it out. If you got it via my email, you should get the link via the email. And I'll put the quote about death in there too, so you'll have that.
Thank
So
you.
how's it getting better
Thank
than
you.
that? Thank
Thank you
everybody.
ever so much.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,